Hey there. Over the past 2 years, great power competition has become the guiding light of U.S. strategy. This is a real problem because, as we will show today, great power competition is a ridiculous myth. Over and over again in U.S. foreign policy discussions, we are told that the world is a dangerous neighborhood. We need to be scared and we must remain eternally vigilant against the bad guys out there beyond our front door. Well, there's a serious problem with this metaphor. If the world is a dangerous neighborhood, then the United States is not just another neighbor trying to defend itself from other neighbors. No, the United States is the landlord, and it has been for at least 30 years now. If the world is falling apart, that's on us. In January of 2018, U.S. policy changed dramatically. Since 2001, the main foreign policy priority of the United States had supposedly been fighting terrorism. I have a 40-plus video series called Everybody's Lying About Islam on how useless that effort has been, but at least it was something the American people thought they wanted. With January 2018's new defense strategy, the Pentagon quietly announced a shift to great power competition against countries like Russia and China. This seismic shift went largely unexamined because we were all too busy watching the President Trump show. The only nice thing about this shift in strategy is that it's a little more honest. In truth, the United States has been pursuing a tremendously counterproductive policy of great power competition for the past 30 years as well. We have a tremendously expensive foreign policy establishment that was built to fight the Cold War. And for the past 30 years, it has kept on fighting the Cold War, even though the Soviet Union voluntarily dissolved itself decades ago. It kept on fighting the Cold War even after it supposedly had something better to focus on after 9/11. Our main target for much of a century now has been Russia. When this competition started, the Soviet Empire outweighed the US population by tens of millions of people, and the Cold War opened with their ideology swallowing up whole continents. 70 years later, the Soviet Empire is gone, Russia has embraced a crappier version of our guiding ideology, and there are almost 200 million more of us than them. Despite all the hype, in the 6 years since NATO expansion finally turned them rogue, Russia isn't taking continents. It's largely failing to take individual provinces of its old empire. The parallels between the US and British empires should be jumping out at you here. A Russia that was never as intimidating as advertised was a key part in the rush to militarism in both empires. As I keep emphasizing in this series, this isn't just stupid and fraudulent, it's also really, really dangerous. This drive towards war, territory, and more formal empire is what killed the British Empire. And it will probably kill the US empire as well. Do you doubt that the US is now building formal territorial empire? Well, what if I told you that the United States has already been militarily involved in Iraq for 3 times as long as the British Empire was? The British had semi-formal influence in Afghanistan for longer than us, but they never managed to physically occupy the place for more than a year or two. We are closing in on 20 years in Afghanistan. We also have a metastasizing network of military bases all over the world. We don't technically control any of these countries, but if you don't think these bases represent a heavy finger on the scales in the politics of all host countries, you are fooling yourself. All this empire has cost trillions of dollars. Those trillions could have built the world's best healthcare system, or brought us back to 1950s levels of income equality. Or it could have cut the US national debt to a quarter of what it is today. Hell, the money we have spent on forever war could have done all of that. Instead, all it has really accomplished is to turn Iran into a somewhat annoying regional power. Iran, a problem created by US empire building, is now being used to justify more US empire building. This great power competition thing is like a perpetual motion machine, except the money will run out eventually. By building US military installations everywhere, we spread our vital national interests everywhere. In so doing, we embarrass ourselves, pumping up every local bully into an Adolf Hitler level threat. We spend trillions of dollars to fight enemies that spend hundreds of dollars killing our soldiers. At the turn of the 20th century, the British did exactly the same thing in South Africa. The British eventually won the Boer War, but only after incredible financial and moral cost. That's the best case scenario for what we're building up to with the Iranians. The conflict with Iran is taking on more tragic dimensions every day, but it's U.S. empire building in another arena that is likely to bring the war that ends U.S. power. I am no utopian. I believe that U.S. competition with China will define the 21st century. But as the more powerful player, we get to define the rules of the game. The competition could have been about building better electric cars and the race to cure cancer. Instead, we spent 20 years doing a war on terror. So the competition is about smart bombs and missiles and who can do a better job brutalizing Muslims. It's some pretty sick stuff that will only lead to sicker stuff. Much like that scramble for Africa the British started back in the 1880s. This is all pretty grim, but none of this is hopeless. The United States is still so powerful that all we have to do to end the pointless tragedy of hyper-militaristic great power competition is get the U.S. government to stop doing stupid stuff. I believe that the best way to convince Washington, D.C. to do this is to get them to learn more about how badly the British Empire screwed up. So I wrote a book about it. Avoiding the British Empire is available now in paperback and ebook form. Please do check it out. And come back next time when we will discuss Halford Mackinder, the man who originated a lot of the bad ideas behind the modern U.S. empire.